In 2012, I almost died. Today, I woke up and was kind of out of ideas for videos, so I figured I would just tell you guys about the time that me and my whole family were stuck on a boat 4 hours offshore in the middle of a storm without an engine. It was around Christmas time, and we were visiting this place in Florida called Key West. It's like these small islands in America off the south coast. And we saw this ad for a boating trip that you could go on to visit a national park called the Dry Tortugas. The place looked like straight out of a movie. I mean, I can't even try and describe what it looked like. I'll try and find some pictures, but it was a 70-mile journey, and they said it would take around 4 hours to arrive there. I was only 13 at the time, so a little over 10 years ago this happened, but I can remember almost every single detail from this trip like it just happened yesterday. So before we left, the captain called the crew and all passengers into this like meeting room on shore where he mentioned to us that the sea conditions on the way back could get a little bit dicey, so he recommended that if anybody gets seasick easily, then it's gonna be kind of rough, and he told us that he would just refund anyone that didn't want to go. And I remember there was a pretty large group of people that decided not to go, but my family knew that none of us got seasick, and me and my brother were really excited about this trip, so we chose to continue on with our plans. There was probably like 40 other people that chose to stay with us, and a few minutes later, we were on our way. Like the captain said, it took around 4 hours to arrive, but the entire time the scene was just so calm and quiet. We we all just kind of thought that the warnings about the small waves were just a fluke and that, maybe we just got lucky on a really easy trip. We arrived, and to this day, this place is one of the most surreal and beautiful places I've ever been to. I think it used to be called like Fort Jefferson or something, but from what I remember, it was just this huge fort. It almost looked like a prison or like the Pentagon or something from the outside. And the US used to harbor ships here that would patrol the Gulf of Mexico and the Straits of Florida. The interior was just this huge open field though, and I just remember laying in the grass, looking up at the bright blue sky. There was no wind because the walls were protected, there was no birds. It was just this complete peace and quiet. And I remember this moment so specifically, more than any of the others for some reason. Don't know why, but every single detail from the smell to the feeling of the grass, I vividly just remember so well. Some time passed and we heard a horn go off, which the captain previously said that if you heard the horn, that meant to come back to the ship. So my family and the rest of the passengers returned back, but something felt really off about this moment. The calm and collected staff that I remembered were like all kind of frantically packing and like moving stuff around on the boat. The boat was called a catamaran. It's like a specific type of boat where, for those of you who don't know, it's like it's really long and flat, and it has engines on both the right and the left side. Each engine is used primarily to turn on its like respective side, so the left engine kicks in really hard when the boat needs to make a right, and vice versa. This detail is important for later, but so yeah, the captain said we needed to leave an hour early because the conditions were getting worse than they initially anticipated, so we just quickly packed everybody up and made our way back to Key West. At first everything was fine, but then we slowly started to notice that the ship was bouncing more and more, eventually hitting a big wave like every once in a while. The sky was getting dark, and that's when me and my little brother started to get really nervous because we started to notice that people started to get sick, and more of the adults just had this like worrying face, you know? It was around an hour into the journey back that things started to get really bad. The initial 5-foot waves started to turn into 10-foot waves. These people that we were talking to, it was like this huge family of 10 to 15 maybe Japanese people. They were vacationing to Florida for a month, and their entire family, I felt so bad. They were all getting sick on the back of the boat. all of us had safety vests on, and eventually the captain moved everybody into this one specific spot on the back of the boat because it was like the safest or something. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, things got awful. Everybody was panicking. Me and my brother were really freaking out, and my mom was just trying so hard not to cry. My dad was just reassuring everybody that everything would be fine, and then the captain got on the intercom and made an announcement that I will remember for the rest of my life. He warned everybody that a very large wave was approaching and that the boat had to make a turn to face it. He legit just gave us a countdown and then yelled at everybody to brace, and then the wave just threw everybody and everything into the air. I mean, it was crazy. I've never been more scared in my life than when I saw the wave like actually approaching from the horizon, and then I just remembered I closed my eyes, I squeezed my family as hard as I could, and that was that. The captain then told us, after the wave hit us, that the wave hit the boat so hard that it actually knocked the right engine completely off. Just, it sank to the bottom of the ocean, and this is bad because this meant that steering the boat was incredibly more difficult, as we could essentially only travel in a circle. Because, like I said, the boat isn't really meant to function without both engines. So we were just there in this storm, just bobbing up and down for almost 4 whole hours until this larger Cuban ship that we finally made contact with on the radio told us to stay put and that they would come back and tug us to the shore. Thankfully, the captain was doing a really good job at keeping us all informed and safe and positive when all of this was happening. And every single time a large wave was approaching, then, you know, you just count us down, we'd brace, and like before, we just waited and waited and waited. So this 4-hour trip took 8 hours for us to finally get back to shore, and I don't think I've ever been so happy in my life. First, when I saw the Cuban tugboat like show up at the horizon, but second, when we actually made it back safe and sound to shore. No one ended up getting hurt, and I don't even remember anybody being frustrated at the captain for taking us on such a dangerous trip, even though I'm positive he had no idea how bad it was actually going to get. Everybody was just happy to be back on land and to be alive and safe, because if things got even just a little bit more rough for us, I'm confident something far worse could have happened. Thank God nothing did. So fast forward 4 years, and at this point I'm still terrified of boats and terrified of the ocean. But we took a trip to California as a family, and I really loved to fish at this time. I've always loved to fish, really. So my family tried really hard to convince me to go on a deep sea fishing trip. I was so scared, like unbelievably scared, but I really wanted to go, and somehow I mustered up enough bravery and enough fake confidence to try it out. And when we arrived, I was as freaked out as ever. I mean, I was in like a full legit panic. I took a single step onto the boat and then just completely passed out, like out cold. My dad thankfully caught me, but for some reason, after passing out, I wanted to just face my fear so bad that I fought through it, and I went on the trip, and I'm telling you, it ended up being one of the most fun things I ever did. The ocean was so calm, like the ship hardly moved at all, and for a few hours we were just out in the middle of the ocean catching all types of crazy looking fish. I was mostly catching these things called rockfish, but I remember somebody in the boat caught like a full-on small marlin, like one of those big fish with like the pointy nose and everything. Although I'm really only telling you guys this story because I think it might be interesting, the moral of the story is that because I faced my fear head on and got through a situation that I never wanted to relive again, I was able to have a fun experience with my family and was able to conquer this fear. Like, sure, boats still totally make me a little uneasy because, you know, I'm never gonna forget that moment that I went through, but I'm not at all scared of them anymore like I once was. Again, I'm not a therapist, but anytime I've ever been scared of anything, the only way I've ever been able to actually conquer it was just by facing the fear head on and charging into the situation with as much fake confidence and bravery as I could muster, enough to try and just rewire my brain to no longer be afraid of the situation. Some other examples are like I was terrified of heights growing up, so naturally I hated roller coasters and amusement park rides, but after I got on enough of them, my bravery slowly turned into confidence and my fear slowly turned into excitement. Keep in mind, I still don't like rides like this, I really don't, but when I'm around friends and family, I'm able to push through this and get on them still, because I know that experiences like that with people that you love are just too precious to miss out on. I was once scared of public speaking too, but after doing enough presentations and practice, I again turned my fear into excitement and I eventually just got over it. What I'm trying to get at is, when you're deathly afraid of something, I understand more than anyone that it can feel impossible to get over when your brain just enters that kind of fight or flight state. It's such a horrendous feeling, I know, but with enough dedication and willpower, I'm confident that you too can conquer any fear that you might have, but you really have to want it, you really do, because it's not going to come easy and your first few attempts are probably going to be pretty unsuccessful, but eventually it works, I promise you. I know it's easier said than done, but it really is possible. You just need to find a way to convince your own brain. And it doesn't even need to be as serious as like a phobia or something. Take hardcore Minecraft as an example, since I'm playing it right now. My friends tried countless times to get me to play hardcore with them, but I always skipped out because I was too nervous that I was going to be the one that would end up dying and ruining the run, or that, you know, maybe I'd be the reason that we screw something up and somebody else dies. I legit haven't played the game in like 10 years. I started playing again a few months ago, but the last content update that I remember was when they added the Wither, and that was something like 10 years ago, I think, but here I am playing again. You only live once, so take some small risks every once in a while, because it's fun, it builds character, and sometimes it just feels good to get out of your comfort zone and enjoy some time with your friends and family, even if the activity or whatever makes you a bit nervous. Obviously, Minecraft is not that deep at all, but it's just the first idea that came to my mind since, you know, I'm playing hardcore right now. This is a story that I've told to countless friends because it's one of the most entertaining situations that I've been through. Like, not for me, obviously, but for the listener, I guess. But yeah, thanks again, as always, for listening to me chat. Consider dropping a sub or leaving a like if this is kind of content that you could see yourself finding interest in. And as always, I can't thank you guys enough for sticking around. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.